can start class, sir.
Sir. Okay, sir. Very good afternoon, students. In previous class, we discussed some of the questions from neural control and coordination. In this particular session, I am going to discuss the remaining questions from this topic. Let us start the question number 31. Sodium potassium pump. Sodium potassium pump. Some statements given regarding to sodium potassium pump. Now we have to find out which statements are correct and which statements are incorrect. A. Sodium potassium pump needs energy to work. A sodium potassium pump is example for the active transport. Sodium potassium pump is an example to the example for the active transport. What is active transport? The movement of substances from lower concentration to the higher concentration against the concentration gradient with utilization of energy is called as active transport. So the best known example for the active transport is the sodium potassium pump. Yes, the sodium potassium pump needs the energy because to pump the ions from lower concentration to higher concentration, the energy is required. Next, it expels 3 sodium for every 2 potassium ions imported. The meaning, it transport the 3, it pump the 3 sodium ions outside for every 2 potassium ions imported. That means they're moving inside. So for 2 potassium ions influx, 3 sodium ions efflux will takes place. As this statement also correct regarding to sodium potassium pump. Next, the works against the concentration gradient. As sodium potassium pump works against the concentration gradient. Next, maintain the resting potential. As sodium potassium pump is responsible for the maintenance of resting potential. What is resting potential? The electrical potential difference either side of the axolemma during resting state is called as resting potential. That means outside of the axonal membrane is positively charged and the inside of axonal membrane is negatively charged. Why outside positively charged? Because of presence of more number of sodium ions. The sodium ion concentration is more than the potassium ion concentration in the extracellular fluid. So this gradient, ionic gradient, either side of axolemma is maintained by the sodium potassium pump by pumping 3 sodium ions outside and 2 potassium ions inside. So these all statements are correct regarding sodium potassium pump. So we have to select the answer 1. So correct option for 31, 1. Next question number 32. The inhibitory neurotransmitter is. What is neurotransmitter? A chemical messenger that transmit a nerve impulse from one neuron to the another neuron across the synapse is called neurotransmitter, right? There are 2 types of neurotransmitters. Excitatory neurotransmitter, nothing but stimulatory neurotransmitter, and another type is inhibitory neurotransmitter. Stimulatory neurotransmitter or excitatory neurotransmitter causes depolarization in the postsynaptic membrane, whereas inhibitory neurotransmitter causes hyperpolarization in the postsynaptic membrane. Here some examples are given. Then we have to find out the which of the following is the inhibitory neurotransmitter. First one, norepinephrine, epinephrine, GABA, and more than one option is correct. Norepinephrine, nothing but noradrenaline, epinephrine, nothing but adrenaline. Norepinephrine, adrenaline, these are hormones. They also act as neurotransmitters, and the same time they are stimulatory neurotransmitters, not inhibitory neurotransmitters. GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid, is act as a neurotransmitter, that is inhibitory neurotransmitter. GABA aminobutyric acid is inhibitory neurotransmitter. So question number 32, answer is third option. Next, on application of a stimulus on the axonal membrane. Application of stimulus, that means when we provide a stimulus, the threshold stimulus, then what happened in the axonal membrane? There is a rapid influx of potassium, first option. There is a rapid efflux of the sodium. There is a rapid influx of the sodium. When we provide a stimulus to a particular segment in the axonal membrane, at that segment, at that site, it leads to the opening of sodium voltage gated channels. When we apply stimulus to a particular site in the axonal membrane, at that particular site result in the opening of sodium voltage gated ion channels. Then rapid influx of the sodium ions takes place. So there is a rapid influx of sodium ions at that site. Answer is third option. Due to rapid influx of the sodium, the inner side of axonal membrane become positive charged and the outer surface is become negatively charged. The polarity has been changed, hence that we can also call as depolarization. Therefore, answer is third option. Let us move on to the next question. Question number 34. Which of the following statements are false about electrical synapses? There are two types of electrical synapses. There are two types of synapses, chemical synapses and electrical synapses. Chemical synapses are more in our system. Electrical synapses are very rare in our system, our body. What is difference between chemical synapses and electrical synapses? First, the structural dissimilarity lies in the synapse. This means synaptic cleft is absent in the electrical synapse. That means the post and pre-synaptic, pre and post-synaptic membrane, they are very close. There is no gap between post and pre-synaptic membrane. In case of chemical synapses, there is a certain gap between pre and post synaptic membrane. That gap is called as synaptic cleft. So here you should concentrate. In the electrical synapses, there is no synaptic cleft. In the chemical synapses, there is a synaptic cleft, means a gap present between post and pre-synaptic membrane. And in the chemical synapses, the nerve impulse are transmitted across the synapse with help of a chemical that we can call as neurotransmitter. But there is no involvement of neurotransmitter in the electrical synapses. In electrical synapses, the impulse jump from one presynaptic membrane to the postsynaptic membrane directly. Now we'll see the options regarding electrical synapses. At electrical synapses, the membrane of pre and postsynaptic neuron are in very close proximity, as there is no gap. They are very close. Pre and postsynaptic membrane both are very close. First statement is correct. Next, B. Electrical current can flow directly from one neuron to another neuron across the synapse. Yes, with the electrical current means the impulse which reach to the terminal ends. The axon terminals are presynaptic membrane that directly jump to the postsynaptic membrane across the synapse with help of gap junction. The gap junctions will be present between pre and postsynaptic membrane. There is no involvement of the chemical to transmit the impulse from one neuron to the another neuron, as like in the chemical synapses. Next, transmission of an impulse across the electrical synapse is very similar to the impulse conduction along single axon, as the process how the impulse are conducted along the length of axon, the same events takes place in the electrical synapses also. The statement C also correct. Next, D, electrical synapses uh, pass electrical signal between cells with the use of acetylcholine. So this statement is wrong. The D statement is wrong because there is no involvement of chemical neurotransmitter or any chemical. They will not use any chemical to transmit the impulse from one neuron to another neuron. So statement D is wrong. Next, electrical synapses are fast as conduction of impulse compared to the chemical synapse. In electrical synapse, conduction of impulse is very fast. Next, electrical synapses are rare in our system. Is this statement also correct? Because these electrical synapses are found only in the cardiac muscles. Cardiac muscle cells. Electrical synapses are found only in the cardiac muscle cells, and in most of the synapses in our body are chemical synapses. So among these all statements, only D statement is wrong. Therefore, answer is second option. Next question number 35. In the presence of calcium channel blockers, which of the following will be true? In the presence of calcium channel blockers, which of the following will be true? The first statement, the neurotransmitter is released, but here they are asking when the calcium channels are blocked, where calcium ion channels are present in the postsynaptic, in the presynaptic membrane, the calcium channels are present. At this area, the calcium channels are present. So when impulse are reached to the synaptic node, this calcium voltage gated channels get open that result in the influx of the calcium ions, and these calcium ions stimulate synaptic vesicles to release the neurotransmitter into the synaptic cleft. Once again I repeat, the calcium voltage gated channels are present in the membrane of presynaptic membrane. Calcium voltage gated channels are present in the presynaptic membrane of the synaptic node. When impulse reach to the terminal ends or axon terminals, these calcium voltage gated channels get open. Calcium voltage gated channels get open that result in the influx of the calcium ions. And these calcium ions stimulate the synaptic vesicles to release the neurotransmitter into the synaptic cleft. And that neurotransmitter is bind with the neurotransmitter receptor present on the postsynaptic membrane. There again action potential will be generated. This is the normal phenomenon. But when calcium ion channels blockers are present, that means these calcium ion channels, they are blocked. What happens? When calcium ion channels are blocked, there is no influx of calcium ions and there is no release of the neurotransmitter, and there is no opening of sodium voltage gated channels in the postsynaptic membrane. Now you'll see the options. 1. Neurotransmitter is released, but sodium channels of postsynaptic neuron will not open. No. When the calcium ion channels are blocked, there is no release of neurotransmitter. So first statement is wrong. Next, neurotransmitter is not released, but sodium channels of postsynaptic neuron will be open up. When the neurotransmitter is not released from the presynaptic membrane, then there will be no opening of sodium voltage gated channels in the postsynaptic membrane. So the second statement also wrong. Next, third statement, neurotransmitter is released, but potassium channels of the postsynaptic neuron open up. Neurotransmitter is released, but potassium channels of postsynaptic membrane will open, but they are not mentioned here whether sodium ion channels are open or not. Here potassium ion channels will close up. Here they are saying that open up, so that statement is also wrong. Neither neurotransmitter is released nor the sodium channels of postsynaptic neuron open up. This statement is 100% correct, because when calcium ions are not there, there is no release of neurotransmitter, then there is no opening of sodium voltage gated channels in the postsynaptic membrane. Therefore, answer is fourth option. Let us move on to the next question. Next question number 36. The correct sequence of meninges from outer to the inner side is. What are meninges? The connective tissue layers, membranes which cover the brain, which protect the brain, called as meninges. There are three meninges. The outer layer is dura mater, and the middle one is arachnoid, and inner one is pia mater. So dura mater, outer one, middle one arachnoid, and the inner one pia mater. Answer is fourth option. Next question. The nervous strip connect both the cerebral hemispheres in the human. The nervous strip that connect the both cerebral hemisphere. As you know that cerebrum is divided into two equal parts, two identical parts called as cerebral hemispheres. So internally these two cerebral hemispheres are connected by a white myelinated nervous strip or nerve bundle that we can call as corpus callosum. Once again I repeat, internally right and left cerebral hemispheres are connected by white myelinated nerve bundle is called as corpus callosum. Therefore, answer is first option, corpus callosum. This corpus callosum brings the coordination between two cerebral hemispheres. What is second option? Corpus albicans. That will come in the second year reproduction syllabus. When the corpus luteum become degenerate, that will become corpus albicans. Corpus striatum, the folding area of the cerebral cortex is called as corpus striatum. Corpus spongiosum is a connective tissue present in the penis. Here for this question, answer is first option. Next question number 38. The part of the brain that regulate the respiration is. As the respiration is regulated by, primarily it is regulated by a respiratory rhythm center. Respiratory rhythm center. The respiratory rhythm center is present in medulla oblongata. Respiratory rhythm center is present in medulla oblongata. Next, which is a part of diencephalon? Here, what is diencephalon? The forebrain consists of three parts. Olfactory lobes. Forebrain consists of three parts. Olfactory lobes, cerebrum, and diencephalon. Olfactory lobes, cerebrum, and diencephalon. Diencephalon further divided into three parts. Epithalamus, thalamus, hypothalamus. Epithalamus, thalamus, hypothalamus. In NCERT given, the forebrain consists two parts. One is cerebrum and thalamus. But actually there are three parts in the forebrain. Olfactory lobes, which are meant for the perception of the smell. Next, cerebrum and olfactory lobes, cerebrum, and diencephalon. Diencephalon consists three parts. Epithalamus, thalamus, hypothalamus. Here they are asking which is a part of diencephalon. Here epiphysis is another name for the pineal gland. Epiphysis is another name for the pineal gland. Is an endocrine. Pineal gland is an endocrine gland which secretes the melatonin hormone. So that pineal gland is present in the epiphysis of the diencephalon. Pineal gland is present in the epiphysis of the diencephalon. Epithalamus of the diencephalon. So your epiphysis is the part of diencephalon. Olfactory bulbs is a part of forebrain. Basal ganglia is a part of cerebral cortex. And lateral, your basal ganglia are group of nucleus which are scattered in the cerebral cortex called as basal ganglia. Lateral ventricles, the openings or cavities present in the cerebral hemispheres are called as lateral ventricles or paracells. So which is the part of diencephalon? Epiphysis or pineal gland is the part of diencephalon. Pineal gland is called as epiphysis, whereas pituitary gland is called as hypophysis. That you remember. Next question number 40. Hypothalamus control the all the following except. So hypothalamus control the hunger and thirst, that is drinking, and it control the body temperature, but not the vomiting. The vomiting center is present in the medulla oblongata, not in the hypothalamus. Therefore, answer is fourth option. Next, 41. Most of the involuntary actions are controlled by. Most of the involuntary actions are controlled by medulla oblongata, and some of the involuntary actions are controlled by cerebellum, but here most of the involuntary actions controlled by the medulla oblongata, like sneezing, vomiting, cough. These all involuntary actions are controlled by the medulla oblongata. Next, question number 42. The dorsal portion of midbrain consists mainly. Here, midbrain consists two parts. Midbrain of human being consists two parts. One, corpora quadrigemina. There are four round swellings: corpora quadrigemina and crura cerebri. Ventral portion of the midbrain consists the nerve bundles called crura cerebri or cerebral peduncles, and the dorsal portion of the midbrain consists four rounded swellings. These rounded swellings are called as corpora quadrigemina. In the diagram you can see, this is the midbrain. Here four lobes are present. Four lobes are present. 1, 2, and the below smaller one, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Four lobes are present. The upper lobes are called as superior caliculi, and the inner lobes are called as inferior caliculi. The superior caliculi are meant for the vision function, and inferior caliculi is meant for the auditory function. And these upper two superior caliculi and two inferior caliculi, four together called as corpora quadrigemina. So your dorsal portion of midbrain consists four round swellings. They are called as corpora quadrigemina. Ventral portion consists the nerve fibers or nerve bundles called as crura cerebri or cerebral peduncles. Let us move on to next question. Question number 43. The third ventricle lies in. Here, what is a ventricle? A ventricle is nothing but the cavity present in the brain. A cavity present in the brain. There are four ventricles in the human brain. The first two ventricles are called as lateral ventricles. First two ventricles are called as lateral ventricles. They are present in two right and left cerebral hemispheres. And the third ventricle is called as diocele, that is present in the diencephalon. Third ventricle is called as diocele, that is present in diencephalon. Next, the fourth ventricle is called as metacele or myelocele, that is present in medulla oblongata. So there are two lateral ventricle, one third ventricle, and one fourth ventricle. That is two lateral ventricle, one diocele, one metacele. So lateral ventricle present in two cerebral hemispheres. Third ventricle present in diencephalon. Fourth ventricle present in medulla oblongata. Here they are asking the third ventricle lies in diencephalon. Third ventricle lies in diencephalon. Next question, 44. The lower parts of phylum terminale has only phylum terminale. First, what is phylum terminale here? In the diagram, you can see the lower part of the spinal cord. Lower part of the spinal cord. Only the lumbar region, sacral region, coccygeal region I have taken here. This part, this is the lower part of the spinal cord. The pointed end of the spinal cord is called as conus medullaris. And here the spinal nerves are extended posteriorly, and they form the tail like a structure like a horse tail. That horse tail like structure is called as cauda equina. And a filamentous structures is continuous up to a coccygeal region. A filamentous structure continues from the end of the spinal cord, that we can call as phylum terminale. This phylum terminale is the extension of pia mater. As complete brain is surrounded by three meninges, the spinal cord also surrounded by the meninges. The meninges are dura mater, arachnoid mater, and pia mater. So this pia mater is extended up to coccygeal vertebrae in the form of filament. That filament-like structure we can call as phylum terminale. So therefore, answer is first option. Next question. Question number 44. The gray matter differs from the white matter in the gray matter. The cerebrum is divided into two parts: outer cortex, inner medulla. The cortex is also called as gray matter because it is gray in color due to presence of cell bodies, of the neurons. And white matter, the medulla is also called as white matter. Inner medulla is also called as white matter because it is white in color because of presence of myelinated nerve fibers. So here gray matter is different from the white matter. In the gray matter, myelinated nerve fibers are absent. In white matter, the myelinated nerve fibers are present. So here gray matter is different from white matter in the absence of myelinated sheath. Myelin sheath, that is fourth answer. Next, question number 45. Which of the following is a richly vascular layer with lots of blood capillaries? Here, outer layer is dura mater, middle layer is arachnoid mater. These two are non-vascular, but the pia mater is highly vascularized structure. Pia mater is highly vascularized structure. It is vascularized means it is rich in blood capillaries or blood vessels. Therefore, answer is second option. Next, the cavity of brain is lined by the cavity of brain called as ventricles. These ventricles are lined by specialized epithelial cells called as ependymal cells. These are a type of neuroglial cells. Cavities of brain are lined by the ependymal cells. These are modified squamous epithelial cells, and also there are type of neuroglial cells. So cavity of brain is lined by ependymal epithelium. Next, question number 47. Which part of the brain control intellectual ability? The intellectual ability is controlled by the association area. The association area, the primary association area and pre-association area are located in the frontal lobe. Here each cerebral hemisphere is divided into 4 lobes: frontal lobe, parietal lobe, temporal lobe, and occipital lobe. Here intellectual ability is controlled by the association area. The association area is present in the frontal lobe. Therefore, answer is first option. Next, question number 48. The part of the brain concerned with the muscular movement is, the muscular movement is controlled by the cerebellum. The coordination of skeletal muscles. The skeletal muscle movement is controlled by the cerebrum, but coordination among the skeletal muscle is controlled by the cerebellum. Body balance is controlled by the cerebellum. Therefore, answer is first option. Next, Broca's area of the speech is present in. This Broca's speech area is responsible for the production of the proper pronunciation, production of this sound. So that area, the sound would be produced by the vocal cords. Sound would be produced by the vocal cords. For that, the cartilages of the larynx are controlled by the Broca's speech area present in the frontal lobe of the cerebrum. So proper pronunciation, the proper sound would be produced by the involvement of the Broca speech area, which is present in the frontal lobe. The comprehension of spoken and written words takes place in the region of the sound going to produce by the Broca speech area. The proper pronunciation would be produced by the Broca speech area, but the comprehension of the language, the spoken and written words, how we will understand the spoken and the written words by the by the area which is present in the temporal lobe. That area is called as Wernicke's area. Here, these two are very, very important: Broca's speech area and Wernicke's area. Broca's speech area is responsible for the production of the sound or production of the proper pronunciation, but the Wernicke's area is responsible for a particular language, the proper words. If any defect in the Wernicke's area, there will be no language and there will be no proper words will come out from the larynx. So question number 49 answer is the Broca's speech area responsible for the sort of production of sound, and that is present in the frontal lobe. And Wernicke's area is responsible for the comprehension of the spoken and written words, and it is present in the temporal lobe of the cerebrum. Let us move on to the next question. Question number 51. Which part of cerebrum converts short-term memory into the long-term memory? The short-term memory into long-term memory. That means you can remember your parents' name lifelong. That means that memory is converted into long-term. But when you read a answer that is short-term memory, again you cannot remember that lifelong. So this conversion of short-term memory into long-term memory is carried out by the hippocampal lobe, is a part of limbic system. The hippocampal lobe converts the short-term memory into long-term memory. Because of this, certain things we can remember lifelong. Answer is fourth option. Hippocampal lobe convert the short-term memory into long-term memory. Next, question number 52. Hypothalamus does not control. Hypothalamus is responsible for the osmoregulation, libido. What is libido? The male sexual activity, male sexual behavior is called as libido. Male sexual behavior is called as libido. The libido is controlled by the hypothalamus along with the limbic system. Along with limbic system, the hypothalamus control the male sexual behavior, and also hypothalamus control osmoregulation, that is maintenance of salt water balance in the body. Next, thermoregulation, the body temperature also controlled by the hypothalamus. But the creative thinking and reasoning, logical thinking, it is not controlled by the hypothalamus. This is controlled by the association area of the cerebrum. The creative thinking is controlled by the association of the area of the cerebrum. Therefore, answer is third option. Next, 53. The voluntary activities of the body are controlled by. Voluntary activities of the body is controlled by the cerebrum. The involuntary activities are controlled by the cerebellum. Voluntary by the cerebrum, involuntary by the cerebellum and medulla oblongata. What is crura cerebri? The crura cerebri is a part of midbrain. Next, question number 54. Drinking of alcohol affect mostly. The alcohol affect the cerebellum. So in the drunkards, due to the effect of cerebellum, there is a uncoordination of voluntary muscular activity. The movement, the walking style will be differ. There is there is no controlled walking style because of the alcohol affect the cerebellum. You know, the cerebellum is the part that is responsible for the body balance. Next question, question number 55. Which of the following systems relays impulse from the central nervous system to the skeletal muscle? The skeletal muscle activity is controlled by the somatic neural system. Skeletal muscle activity is controlled by the somatic neural system. Therefore, answer is first option. Sympathetic. The autonomous nervous system is further divided into sympathetic, parasympathetic. The autonomous neural system is responsible for controlling of involuntary muscles, that is smooth muscles. Next question, question number 56. Select the incorrect statement. Cerebral cortex. The cerebrum is divided into outer cortex and cerebral cortex, inner cerebral medulla. Cerebral cortex grays in appearance and thrown into prominent folds known as sulci and gyri. And the foldings present in the cerebrum called as sulci, and the convolutions, the depressions are called as gyri. Next, concentrated neuron cell body. Concentrated neuron cell body gives gray color to cerebral cortex. Yes, due to presence of only cell bodies, the new cortex region is grayish in the appearance because yes, myelinated nerve fibers are absent. As second statement also correct. Fibers of the tract covered with myelin sheath constitute the inner part of cerebral hemisphere. The inner part of cerebral hemisphere is cerebral medulla. That cerebral medulla is composed with nerve fibers with myelin sheath, covered with myelin sheath. Yes, that is also correct statement. Next, the fourth one. Cerebrum is wrapped around the structure called medulla. This statement is wrong. The fourth statement is wrong because cerebrum is wrapped. That means it encloses around the thalamus, not around the medulla. Because of that, the fourth answer is incorrect statement. Fourth statement is the incorrect. Next, question number 57. The major coordinating center for the sensory and motor signaling is thalamus. Major coordinating center for sensory and motor signaling, thalamus, because the sensory impulse which are moving towards the cerebrum, they have to pass through the thalamus. At the same time, motor impulse which are originated in the cortex region of the cerebrum have to pass through the thalamus because it is the major coordinating center for the sensor and motor signaling. Next, question number 58. Which of the following is false about hindbrain? Hindbrain consists three parts: pons, cerebellum, medulla oblongata. Hindbrain comprises three parts. One is pons, cerebellum, and medulla oblongata. First one, pons, a part of it consists of fiber tracts that interconnect different region of the brain. As the ventral portion of the pons consists of fiber tracts. Tracts nothing but group of nerve fibers interconnect a different region, and these nerve fibers interconnect the different region of the brain. As first statement is correct. Next, second statement, cerebellum, part of it has very convoluted surface. Convoluted meaning the folded surface to accommodate the many neurons. Yes, cerebellum, its surface is convoluted, it is folded to accommodate many neurons. As second statement also correct. Next, medulla of this part is connected to the spinal cord. As medulla of the hindbrain, the medulla oblongata is continuous as a spinal cord. It medulla is comes out from the cranium through a large opening is called as foramen of magnum. medulla oblongata is comes out from the cranium as spinal cord through a large opening present at the base of the skull that we can call as foramen of magnum. Next, hindbrain regulate excitement, pleasure, rag, and fear. This is fourth statement is wrong because it is false statement because the excitement, pleasure, rag, fear, these are controlled by hypothalamus and the limbic system, not by the hindbrain. Therefore, answer is fourth option. Next, question number 59. Hypothalamus also gives a nervous process called the nervous process, nervous extension from the hypothalamus, floor of hypothalamus is called as infundibulum. Infundibulum. This infundibulum is ends with a rounded non-nervous pharyngeal outgrowth is called as Rathke's pouch. This Rathke's pouch become pituitary gland. So first one is infundibulum and the second dash should be filled with Rathke's pouch. Answer is third option. Next. Here, what is Rathke's pouch? It is a pharyngeal outgrowth. Means during embryonic development, the roof of buccal cavity gives rise a extension that we can call as Rathke's pouch. That Rathke's pouch become pituitary gland in the adult stage. The association area are not responsible for. Association area is responsible for intersensory association, communication, and storage of memory, but not a regulation of sexual behavior. The regulation of sexual behavior is that this function is carried out by the limbic system, not by the association area. The remaining three functions, intersensory associations, communications, and memory, these functions are carried out by association area, but not regulation of sexual behavior. Therefore, answer is third option. Next question. Myelogenesis, that is myelin formation, the secretion of myelin sheath occur in the central nervous system by oligodendrocytes. The secretion of myelin sheath occurs in the central nervous system by oligodendrocytes. While in the peripheral nervous system, the myelin sheath is secreted by the Schwann cells. This is very important point. In case of central nervous system, the myelin sheath formation is carried out by the oligodendrocytes. In case of peripheral nervous system, the myelin sheath is secreted by the Schwann cells. Here they are asking in the central nervous system, therefore answer is second option. Next question number 62. Which of the following form this cerebrospinal fluid? The watery fluid present in the cavities of the brain and subarachnoid space is called as cerebrospinal fluid. This cerebrospinal fluid is secreted from the choroid plexus. There are two choroid plexus in the human brain. Primary choroid and secondary choroid plexus. The first choroid plexus is present in epithalamus and second choroid plexus is present in medulla oblongata. What is choroid plexus? A network of blood vessels, and nerve fibers called as choroid plexus. That choroid plexus involves in the secretion of cerebrospinal fluid. Therefore, answer is first one. Next, foramen of Monro is an aperture found between. Foramen of Monro is aperture, opening is found between. There are four ventricles. Just now I told that there are four ventricles. First two ventricles are called as lateral ventricles, and the third ventricle is called as diastole, and fourth ventricle is called as metastole. First two ventricles are connected with third ventricle through a opening is called as foramen of Monro. That means the lateral ventricles are connected with third ventricle with the help of a opening is called as foramen of Monro. Therefore, answer is fourth option. And here third ventricle is connected with the fourth ventricle through aqueduct of Sylvius or cerebral aqueduct that passes through the midbrain. But here they are asking what is foramen of Monro. That aperture found between two lateral ventricles and a third ventricle that is found in the diencephalon. Next question number 64. The butterfly-like structure surrounding the central part of human spinal cord. In the brain, outer side gray matter, inner side white matter. But in the spinal cord, inner side gray matter, outer side white matter. Here, gray matter, the butterfly gray matter of the spinal cord form the butterfly-like structure. Here you can see in the diagram, the butterfly-like structure surrounding the central part of human spinal cord is called as gray matter. Answer is fourth option. Next question number 65. Through which aperture the spinal cord passes out of the skull? Medulla oblongata continues as a spinal cord that emerges out from the skull through a large opening present at the base of the skull. That large opening is called as foramen of magnum. The large opening present at the base of the skull is called as foramen of magnum. What is foramen of Monro? Just now I said that the opening present between first two ventricle and third ventricle. Foramen of Faniza is the opening present in the heart of reptilians. Next. Now I will stop here. The remaining questions I will continue in the next class. Now, if you have any doubt, you can ask here.